Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inside Gamescast. It's August 7th, 6:07 in the PM. The sun's out.
Oh, so nice.
Yes, we're up bright and early to Gamescast.
That's right.
And Baldur's Gate 3 is on everyone's lips, Bruce.
Lawrence, I can't believe you haven't played this game yet.
I was traveling.
You were traveling the entire time the game was out. And full release for Baldur's Gate. This is the perfect Lawrence game.
It is, yes. A grand return to CRPGs.
Yeah.
Not experienced since Dragon Age Origins. I'm really excited. And it's weird because it's kind of kicked up a lot of discussions. I think it's woken up a lot of dormant sensibilities in folks. I think it's made a lot of people realize that maybe a lot of the RPG experiences that were purporting to be interactive were not really, which is good. It makes more people, I think, a little square their vision about what games are and the kind of experiences they offer. But it's been a fun narrative, hasn't it? A lot of people, I think, are finding a lot of heart and soul in the fact that a game that just has a ton of content and no bullshit is performing really, really well.
That's an amazing, I'm going to say, side effect, because I have a completely different take on Baldur's Gate. Because a lot of people are like, you see, this is how you make a game.
Yeah.
But Baldur's Gate has been in early access for 3 years. It's been getting worked on for so long. And that's, to me, the very first thing that I keep pointing out. Like, they had the time. Larian had the time to make this game great, and then also got the whole internet behind their full release. I don't know that many studios can do that. I don't know how many studios can do that. I mean, it's a great business model, but what other games have the budget to support a team for that long to build this game from early access to a full release? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Very few, and fewer still want to take on the headache of actually making a game like this.
Oh, that, yeah, for sure.
Because it's I can't even imagine. I mean, some companies try, Bethesda, and God bless them, any developer out of the middle of Europe, like the people that make Gothic and things like that.
Yeah.
They try to make these big reactive experiences, and they're known for being like rickety and crashing all the time, and quests breaking and doing things out of order. So
that all happened for Baldur's Gate early access. That was constant. It was like crashing, and it didn't feel like there was much content there. But in full release, it's like practically perfect for me.
Oh man,
I've had no crashes. Everything seems to be working as intended, and it's incredibly enjoyable. But again, that's 3 years of live development with users testing it as they go.
Yeah, so. And after releasing a game pretty much in that vein, Divinity Original Sin 2.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
So they had cultivated the skill in that. Theoretically retained a lot of their developers, and then had the funding to actually develop this game the proper way. It's whenever the gamers celebrate a game and try to hold it up as like an example for everyone else to follow. You're right, Bruce. I think often a lot of people ignore the context there.
It's so weird, yeah.
Larian kind of came out of nowhere, though. I mean, usually Blizzard or Rockstar are the two studios that can develop a game like that. And Blizzard chooses not to because they're not worth it anymore.
Yeah.
Rockstar, God bless them, they still make Red Dead Redemption 2. But no other studio can really get away with that. And also, I'm not even convinced Rockstar will do it anymore after GTA Online.
No.
But there is that stuff, and then there's just also, if every game were like this, I think people would get tired of it.
Oh, absolutely they would.
So it's just the fact that no one's made a really solid one that everyone agrees upon is good for a while. Yeah. It reminds me of FromSoft in the early days of Soulsborne, or Demon Souls even. It was a similar situation at the time. People pointed to Demon Souls and they were like, yeah, now that's the shit. That's like a cryptic game that's difficult and rewards player skill and doesn't inundate me with a million QTEs and cutscenes, because that was the thing at the time. And everyone pointed to it and they were like, why doesn't everyone just do that? It's because no one was buying it.
Yeah.
And also those games are pretty hard to make, or they were at the time. So things stick out because of their relative rarity. And also, if they weren't rare, then they wouldn't stick out. So
that's a good point. That's a really good point.
But I'm happy. I mean, having not played it for a second, I cannot wait, because it's exactly the kind of game I love.
Well, I'm responding to the internet right now. I'm not, like me having played about 20 hours of Baldur's Gate in the last couple of days. Like, it's like a practically perfect video game. It's very much like a Tears of the Kingdom. It feels like that caliber of game. And it's funny because people were like, oh, what do you think? Like Baldur's Gate Game of the Year? And I was like, no way. And then now that I played it, I'm like, they could be competing for Game of the Year. Absolutely. Like Tears of the Kingdom. What are the, like, I mean, not Final Fantasy 16 maybe on the list, probably not. Yeah, I mean, I like
good game, but
what? Yeah, it's a great game, but what else is there like that would be competing for Game of the Year? And like Baldur's Gate is up there, man. It's like so good. So I don't know, pretty wild.
Starfield, Spider-Man 2.
Spider-Man 2 and Starfield will be on there, but I don't know that Starfield's going to have a great launch. Because again, everyone's going to ignore the fact that Baldur's Gate has been in early access for 3 years, and they're going to be like, "Oh, this game came out of nowhere." It's like, no, it didn't. But you know, it feels like it, so that's okay. So it must be weird. I was thinking about it from the perspective of another studio, like let's say, for example, Bethesda or some other studio that's making a really, really big game, and then they don't have that time to make an early access game and release it in early access and be like, this is early access. Give us like 3 years. I don't know what other studios are able to do that. Not many. Not many.
I really need to look up Larian as a company because I don't know how they funded themselves through this. I mean, I'm sure early access gave them some money.
Yeah, people bought Baldur's Gate. I did. I mean, I bought Baldur's Gate, so I would assume that they sold copies, and it was kind of like for every update they would push, more people would buy it on Steam. But I don't know that necessarily, like you said, gave them the cash to get through it. So if I'm another studio, like, and I'm watching this, I'm super jealous, very jealous of the fact that I had 3 years to sort of become the internet darling, you know. So.
Yeah, they managed that ride pretty well too.
They did. They did a great job.
Which is challenging.
Yeah. They've been pushing regular updates for that game for so long, and I remember like there were a couple of times I was like, no, maybe I should hop back in, and they were just like their ultimate goal was always full release, and I was like, you know, I'll just wait for full release because I think it's going to be something that, you know, should be pretty special. Having played the bones of it 3 years ago, I just did not expect it to be so big. My gosh, it's like. It's almost like is it like 1 million people are playing concurrently on Steam or something?
I think
it
was over. Last I checked, it was over 800K.
Gosh, that's wild. That is crazy. So that's
good.
What's wrong?
Well, okay, let's say it's. We don't know what sales are yet, right? Is it only on Steam or is it other platforms?
It will be on PlayStation in a month.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's delayed on Xbox.
Okay, because the pop-off on PC is actually making it rise up the PlayStation charts, which is also really good.
Yeah. That's another great point.
It's still got to make its money back, though.
Well, but that's another great point.
How long was it in development total, I wonder?
Well, 6 years, probably.
That's a lot of money, Bruce. Holy shit.
It's got to be 6 years, right? Because 3 years to get to early access?
You're probably like...
Maybe 2 years to get to early access?
You probably got to hit like 4 or 5 million for that. And...
It'll sell 4 or 5 million, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's pretty good. But it's not like... I mean, real smash runaway successes are like Elden Ring. That was like 40 million. That's like that's another tier of success.
I don't think it'll sell 40 million.
Yeah, I don't think it will either. I'm not trying to yuck the yum here.
No, we're not. By the way, again, we're not doing that. We're talking about the internet response to Baldur's Gate, not the video game itself. I know we need to clarify that because the video game itself, in my opinion, practically perfect. Like it's such a great video game.
Yeah, people. They self-published. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Okay, that's probably why they can run lean enough. And also probably why they could develop the game like they did, because there's no way a publisher would let them stew on this thing for 6 years.
That's correct. Yeah.
That's really interesting. Yeah, then in that case, it might actually be a really good case study. But boy, that's a lot of work. Man, that's a lot of work for so long.
And a lot of money.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I guess when it goes back to maybe it's not the best case study to point to prove how games should be done in every situation. Is that I have my wonderings about what their break even is in terms of sales. And despite the glow up and all the great headlines and things like that, I would be a little doubtful that they've hit it yet. But maybe they have. Who knows? If they developed really cheap and they have like low payroll and stuff like that.
I mean, I hope. What did it say for how many employees they had?
Good question.
Because I mean, like we can do a little real quick clown math and see what. You know, if you're paying $100K on average per employee or something.
It says 450 employees on Wikipedia and 6 studios.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
How did they do that?
Because it's a massive game.
They must have been getting a lot of investment money.
Yeah, there's probably investment money and stuff like that. But I mean, like, what is it? 400? You know, like that's like, geez, man, how much is that? $40 million? Is like that's a ton. That's a ton to run a studio for 5-6 years. It's probably way more than that. But again, the interesting thing about this is that it's releasing on PC, where they knew it would be. This is such. We always go back to Cyberpunk because Cyberpunk is one of the biggest botch releases in the last few years. So imagine that Cyberpunk had gone. Let's say they're like, okay, we know the game is not great on other consoles, but we are going to release it on PC, and we're going to do an early access period for a year on PC. Everybody that played it would have loved it because most people on PC had no problem. And there'd be a lot of angry people because they'd be like, oh man, like I want it on console. They would just have to wait. That's what Baldur's Gate is doing. But in a year's time, they knock out all the bugs, and then they go, we've perfected it on console, and then they slowly roll it out on console, and they are the internet darling, guaranteed, because the game itself now is amazing, right? So if they had waited a couple of years and released it in that way, it would be a practically perfect release. However, I don't know how big their studio is. I don't know how many people they need to pay for how long. And Cyberpunk was in development, what, 6 years, 7 years?
I think like 5. They announced it in 2013, and I think dev started in like 2015 or something like that.
Right. So like they would have to fund this thing for, and then they would have to hold it off for at least another year and be like, well, we'll make a little cash releasing it in early access, but let's just sort of punt it down the line. Do you think, here's my question, Lawrence, do you think it would sell more or less copies doing it that release schedule versus the all consoles, all platforms, all at once? What do you think?
Probably less total.
I think so too.
Yeah. There's a lot of power in synced marketing. And a lot of the reasons why publishers can't just delay a game on top of potentially announcing it to investors and kind of being obligated to that date is that, there's a lot of marketing campaigns that have to be planned. There's ad space that gets bought. There's money that gets put down on a date, half a year before that date arrives. Yeah. And you do your best planning and production and all that stuff, and you can try to bake in as much time for things to go wrong as you can. But ultimately, you have to pray that all your logistics line up. Mm-hmm. And for something like Cyberpunk that was also becoming a brand that had more potential outside of just games, there's also reasons you want to hit your promotional dates. So you get like 10 million sold in the first weekend, and then that's momentum you can carry into other things business-wise. So that's another reason that I think, sure, Larian's doing it the right way for the gamers, but there are ways that game companies, unfortunately, and I think this is the thing that really stings, and the thing I think ultimately the gamers react negatively to, is when they know they're not the primary audience anymore, or the only audience, I should say. Yeah. There's always more than one, because studios also have to consider their employees and their investors, whether that's publishers or whatever. But it's when the launch quality or the launch state of the game takes a ding because of other factors. We as gamers, we can demand that we're the first and primary and only concern, but that's just not the case. One thing I like to liken it to is content production sometimes.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
We could delay a video forever until it's perfect, every edit in just the right place. But there's a point where it is a product, and at some point that product's good enough, and you got to get it out the door so you can start working on the next one, because that's the nature of the business. So I think sometimes that happens, and the customer is entitled to complain about it or hold up examples that they think are doing it the right way. But there are other studios out there that are gonna look at Baldur's Gate 3 sales and be like, who cares? That was not worth the time.
That's a good point.
You could argue from a lot of, we don't have the numbers, obviously.
We will eventually. They're gonna do a press release and tell us how much they sold.
Yeah, if it's good, and it seems like they will. But you look at just the money in and money out, and another studio's like, I could have tried to make 2 games of service games with that budget, and only one of them has to half work, and we've already made more money than this studio did.
Yeah, you're right. So my analogy. Those are all fantastic points, because my analogy is Larian feels like CD Projekt Red did when they released The Witcher 3, right?
So even that is like revisionist, because nobody liked Witcher 3 when it launched.
No, well, for sure, but I mean, like, let's just look back with rose-colored glasses.
Once it hit Game of the Year edition and people actually played it,
everyone was like, Witcher, and
all this content, and it's not buggy.
And they're like, oh my gosh, no microtransactions, the DLC is free. Remember, everybody loves CD Projekt Red. So what Larian is doing is they are currying favor with the internet to then release a bigger game. So this is a crazy call out to the future, but I'm going to say in like 5 years' time, if they do it right, Larian will hopefully do the same release schedule for their next big game. But their next big game is going to be even more hyped because that's what happened with Cyberpunk. CD Projekt Red made The Witcher, obviously made a bunch of money on The Witcher over time. You're right. It's revisionist history. People hated it when it launched, but it took a little time. Once it did, it's the greatest video game of all time. And then everyone was like, I can't wait for the next CD Projekt Red game. Oh my gosh, Cyberpunk. Oh my god, this is gonna be the greatest video game of all time. It's gonna be the same with Larian. It's gonna be this crazy hype machine. So hopefully, they instead tell everyone to just cool their jets and calm down. And Larian's like, no, we're gonna do it on our timetable, not on yours. So we'll see.
You know what? Hearing you describe CD Projekt that way, there was another studio a long time ago. They used to bite off interesting projects. They were usually PC forward, and the quality of their games usually spoke for themselves. Yes, Blizzard Entertainment, but they're in exactly the same spot. There's like a warm place where PC forward developers that bring out like technologically progressive games or like gameplay progressive games. I would say Baldur's Gate 3 qualifies with its interconnected story and reactive business. Like, that stuff usually happens on PC. That audience is typically a lot more interested and receptive to complicated, difficult, or just broader feature sets. Bit of a stereotype, but it tends to play out in the sales. But yeah, Blizzard used to do that. CD Projekt used to be that. And then I think both of those companies kind of grew out of that space.
That's right. Yeah.
Being the most important for their business.
No, and this is, man, we're making a lot of people angry. We always make people angry.
This is just gaming history right now.
I mean, it is gaming history, but a lot of people don't want to hear this because they want to hear.
We're too dangerous, Bruce.
They want to hear. Well, that's not. Yeah, no, we're exactly the fucking opposite.
The Rush Limbaughs of gaming.
We are not too dangerous at all. We are instead the people being like, this is unfortunately how everything works. Because a lot of people want us to be like, this is it, guys. Baldur's Gate's the perfect video game, which means every video game should follow this release schedule. This is how you should do it. However, I bet when Blizzard grew up and when CD Projekt Red grew up, they made a fuck ton more money. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, we're taking beatings online constantly, but we're all fucking rich. And so it's kind of one of those things where it's like, which one do you want? Do you want to be rich and not famous? Or do you want to be famous and not rich? It's a very, very interesting thing that I think those specific companies like Blizzard and CD Projekt Red are now on the opposite side of the, like everyone loves you, but not on the money side.
Yeah.
So
it gets complicated too.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You get up there, you get some sales, your employees see those sales, they start wanting bigger salaries. Maybe you can't afford them, but Blizzard can.
Yeah.
So now they're poaching your engineers or whatever, and you want to make your next big game, but it's difficult to get people on board, especially after they're done working 12-hour days. I'm not implying anything about Larian specifically.
Oh no, of course. Yeah,
it's just these are the narratives that I've seen happen a lot, and Larian is kind of the new BioWare.
That's right,
back when everybody loved BioWare, but they put out Dragon Age Origins. I consider like their last great CRPG opus. And then EA just really put the screws to them, and they had to release like software every year. Compromises were obvious, at least to me.
They were, yeah.
Employees left. The brand sort of just disintegrated because the creative talent and the creative team behind those games left. So yeah, there's all kinds of destructive forces out there. Whether it's what I think about sometimes is you can try to do things the right way all day, and then just the universe can push you out of that zone. So take CD Projekt. Maybe they wanted to do it that way, but they were losing their like Red Engine coders to other studios, Techland and Poem. I'm throwing out theoretics.
Just guessing, yeah.
So maybe they had to agree to a simultaneous publish date with Sony to bank in the cash to be able to dole out these raises to keep people on the project. Like, who knows? I just know that life is a series of compromises sometimes. And
it totally is.
Yeah, we all want to believe that you go in there with gamer strong attitude. No, we're going to make this the right way. And then you hit these moments of conflict, and you have to make a choice, and you don't always know the consequences of them. So this is just coming from a lot of anonymous discussions I've had with developers where it's like, hey, why did that happen? Oh, that sucks. And, sometimes people are in bad situations and tried to make the right call. Some people were in good situations and didn't make the right call. It's all messy.
That's right. I just like, again, nobody wants to listen to this. They don't want to hear us be like, hey guys, like, no, like let's just cherish it for what it is. Like, let's just love the game for what it is, and like, instead not use it as an example for every other studio, because every other studio is a different case. But that's the problem. That's what it is. Like, I'm sorry, we could probably speak to a bunch of other indie studios and say, like, try what Larian did. Like, as you're coming up, when you're growing,
an indie dev is going to break out in hives the second you ask them to make that kind of game.
Yeah,
God,
I know, but it's like, do what I'm saying is, do the release schedule of Larian. Put your game in early access, and then use the live audience on Steam to iterate and make the game better, and then eventually do a full release. I know there are a few other games on Steam. I wish I could think of an example offhand that's on Steam, but there are a few that do that, that are doing exactly that. And most of the time, it doesn't succeed the way that Baldur's Gate has. And I underestimated Baldur's Gate. I really didn't think it was going to be this big. I was kind of like, I was pushing toward beginning of August. I was like, oh, I can't wait to play this. And like, I was like asking people like you and like a bunch of like Gassy Mexican Max. I was like, hey, are you going to play? And they're like, absolutely, we're going to play. And I was like, oh, you actually were following this. And then on Friday when it was released, every single person I knew was streaming that game. It was wild. And I didn't think that a D&D RPG was going to do it. I really didn't, but it did. So I was wrong.
It's the intersection of a lot of things. Yeah. The quality of the game is first and foremost for sure, but the rise of D&D content on live streaming platforms is very adjacent to content that already does really well. The runaway success of their bear sex reveal.
My gosh, totally viral.
There are
for sure viral,
ad execs that are breaking that down right now and trying to diagram out how they hit so big. Not every game has that either, bear sex, or just a distinguishing feature, which is really the problem. When it comes to like, why doesn't every game just do that? There's thousands that are trying, but they get buried immediately on Steam.
Get it buried?
Hey, just crawl on me. But yeah, I mean, Larian, they had the brand, which is not huge, but some people knew about it. It had a legacy, so you have your core audience there. They had early access, so you had a bank of people that were playing it, and tolerant people because it was called early access.
That's right, yeah.
And then they hit with the bear sex. That gets everybody turning their heads. And also, I just think the streamer culture of it, it's a pretty interactive game, like D&D usually is.
Yeah.
And a completely underserved genre lately. So, I mean, there's like, there is like Disco Elysium is, I think, the only game close to this, because it has the die rolls, skill checks,
right,
forking dialogues and all that sort of stuff. So,
well, this is, I mean, so I guess what we're saying is also right place, right time for them. So, like, I'm sure that they're doing their best work, and they believed in the genre, and they believed in the game and all that other stuff. But also, a lot of other things are coalescing all at once to make this the biggest game in the world right now. And I don't think so. When a bunch of the gamers are like, "Hey, this is how you release a game," I'm not sure that every studio can recreate that.
Yeah. They're right.
I mean, but also, I don't know if that's something that every studio can do.
Yeah, I mean, part of the wonder of gaming is that we get to ignore logistics. So I don't, and this is something
that's our job, is to not ignore logistics.
Yeah, so. I mean, Bruce, you talk about people not being interested in hearing about it. I mean, that's what we root our news reporting in, is a more like real world practical approach to games production. I've often theorized that people like games because it lets them ignore those things.
Sure.
Who wants to care about logistics and time unless you're playing Death Stranding? So I kind of get it, if you're into gaming, why you would want to think about them in terms other than real world annoying works and costs and man hours and bugs. And personally, I don't know, I find that stuff fascinating, because that's where the human stories are behind the games. And also the fact that people can overcome all those obstacles to ship something. Like, just shipping a game in general is outstanding, but to do something like Baldur's Gate 3,
the scale is mind-blowing.
To keep 450 people on the same project, pushing in the same direction for 6 years, and end up with something that's conceptually uniform and consistent is, I don't get it. Even small teams, I can't get it. I've been doing raid nights and MMOs, and just getting everyone to show up at the same time every week is, I mean, in D&D, God, If you got adults in your D&D group over 25, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
Imagine 6 years, 450 people.
Yeah. I mean, they all have jobs, so they're all getting paid, obviously. But at the same time, but creatively keeping them unified that's so hard. This game is worth your time. If anybody's listening and having like kind of, I've seen a few people pop into my chat being like, "Hey, should I give this a shot? Like, I really love D&D," and I'm like, if you really love D&D, this is the perfect video game for you. But I've seen other people that are just super casual that are like, like why do people like this? What do they care about this? And I'm like, I don't know. There's just magic to it because it's the same sort of magic that Tears of the Kingdom had, which was it feels like you can do anything. Now I know you can't do anything, but you're really close. Like there's like infinite number of possibilities on how to solve encounters, combat, just getting around, moving around the area. All the branching paths of dialogue, like it's wild. It's really, really wild. And it's something that like I can't even conceive of the scale of. I don't even understand how someone like there's a flowchart somewhere that has it all. And I just don't know how they did it. So
it's weird to see, yeah. Have you ever seen dialogue trees and like scripting tools and stuff like that?
Huh.
It's the least romantic thing in the entire world. We just I remember talking about that once about how I really like learning how the magic trick works because it makes me appreciate the magic even more.
Yeah.
Some people just want to watch the magic, so I get that. Although speaking of magic, Bruce, I'm curious. It's kind of an easy question to answer, but to me, there's kind of two approaches to video games. One is to create an illusion of a reactive experience, and the other one is to actually try to provide it. So it's like the comparison I think that's easy to make is in this case between like even JRPGs and CRPGs or computer RPGs and Japanese ones. Japanese ones tend to be very linear with a lot of glitz and glamour around the side. And then the game aspect of it is pretty contained, and then the narrative is pretty much linear.
Yes.
And plays like Final Fantasy 16, basically.
That's super linear. And by the way, a fantastic video game. Loved it. Like, loved playing it, but it's super linear. I never felt like I had choice ever.
Yeah.
Which is okay.
It's most Final Fantasy games, actually.
Okay.
And most JRPGs, really. They never really went for the interactive story part of it. It's like there's a game that's logistics, stats and what turn you're gonna or what action you're gonna take on a turn and all that gear, and then the story you just kind of thumb through as it goes or watch a cutscene. And then there's the CRPG method, which is trying to guess what the player's gonna do, and then make content that reacts and rewards those interactions. Which one do you like, Bruce?
Man, this is a great question. I don't know if I have an answer for this. I would have told you know what, before Baldur's Gate I would have told you JRPGs. I would have been like, linear, I'm fine. Because the reason I say that is because most people most developers that make a CRPG don't do the choices well. So like even in like a guaranteed Starfield, I don't give a fuck about, like there's going to be 3 choices and they're all going to lead the same place. So
yes, no, maybe yes.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like again, that doesn't bother me, but I know that there is no choice involved. Whereas Baldur's Gate, like the more you dive into it, the more you're like, what? Like they really wrote every single choice? And like everybody that had been watching streams that I've been putting up, people are like, oh my gosh, like I saw somebody else do this thing and then they went this way, and like you did it this way. Like, how did you? So everyone has seen a different way to do it. And I don't know that that's even possible. I don't know if there are many other developers that could do that. Larian knows what they're doing and been doing it for years. But if you ever attempted to like just make a new video game like that, I think your mind would be boggled by how much work you had to do. So.
And how easily it can break.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, generally speaking, I like the linear. I think it's really fun, but I also understand the magic. There is none. Where, like you said, yes, no, maybe yes, right? Like, it's all the same shit. I know where it's going. Not in Baldur's Gate, though. I have no idea where anything's going, which is awesome. So
I hear you.
Yeah. What about you? You haven't played it yet, but I mean, like, what? Are you more the linear type of guy who just like wants to thumb through it?
I think I kind of am.
Okay.
Open experiences like that intimidate me a little bit.
They are intimidating. Absolutely. Yeah.
I remember the first CRPG I played. Well, I guess technically it was Eye of the Beholder, but I played Fallout 1 when I first got a PC, And before that, I had played Final Fantasy and JRPG, so it was like, RPG is the genre I like. I can't wait to play this computer RPG. First of all, it kicked my ass. Like I think Baldur's Gate, I've seen some people complain about that, the difficulty.
Oh, I was just going to say, well, finish your thought, and then I'll tell you the solution to that.
Oh, okay. That was the first gut check, because most console games are a little friendlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, in Fallout, you get kicked out of the vault, and then a rat just chomps you on the toe, and you die. But even beyond that, you get out of the little air quotes tutorial cave, and it's just like, go play the game. It's out there. Go do it. And that was scary. I remembered
it is.
I clicked around in the first town a little bit, and you just have to kind of talk to people and figure out what's going on. And some of the NPCs have like dialogue that's designed to point you in directions, but there's no like glowing triangle telling you where to go. There's no hallway to walk down, and then there's treasure and a boss at the end. So I remember, just being kind of intimidated by it, feeling a little overwhelmed.
So I'll interrupt you there. Baldur's does have little glowing triangles.
Okay.
So I don't know that you can turn them off, probably, but they're there when you first start. So like when you get out of the tutorial area, there aren't any glowing triangles. But as soon as you start talking to people, they open up. So things like they start dropping quest markers on the map and in parts of the map that you haven't explored. So it's not entirely unfriendly to a casual gamer. And I was going to tell you the other solution to this that you immediately need to learn if you want to do anything in Baldur's Gate at all is quick save. You're constantly hitting F5.
The classics.
And then like for me, I've been getting to chests or getting through combat. Combat's a little different, but like if I get to a chest and I'm like, okay, I think I probably picked this lock, but I only have one thieves tools. So I'm going to do it, roll the dice, fail. Well, guess what? I quick saved, reload, open that chest because I want to see what's in it, right? Like it's funny because that's the way you really explore the content in Baldur's Gate. Everyone's save scumming. If anybody's telling you they're not save scumming, they're lying. Because I want to see what happens. I want to see what happens. For example, like I'm so amazed by the game that if you talk to someone and you fail the persuasion check or whatever, then it takes you in an entirely different direction. Sometimes an NPC will just die. And you're like, well, what the fuck? And people in my chat, again, they're like, that NPC is supposed to be alive for the whole game. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. So like, you have to reload. If you want to see what that looks like to have that NPC as a companion. It's pretty crazy. I haven't discovered the framework yet. And I played through the tutorial area, or I guess the beginning 3 or 4 hours of the game twice. And I haven't discovered where the edges are. Because the edges are there, I just don't know what they are. I don't know that you might be able to just go through the entire game without companions. Maybe they all die and then you're just by yourself. Like, I don't know.
I think there's specifically a perk for that, right? There's like something where you can be a solo player and it like doubles your health and something like that. Yeah.
That might be without co-op.
Maybe, yeah.
That might, but like meaning NPC companions. I don't know if you always have to have Lae'zel, who's a Githyanki companion. I don't know if you always have to have, what's her name, Shadowheart. You'll discover these in a second when you play it. But like,
there's never been a threads of fate have been severed moment where you break a quest chain and it's like, well, you can keep playing, but the game's broken. Bethesda games would do that.
No, I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
I think if, like, generally you just die and then you're dead and like,
okay.
and then like you can go, I guess, to your camp and res if you want to, but like sometimes you're just dead and you're just like, I have to reload, and like wherever you saved last was where you reloaded.
Okay.
So it's super punishing that way. So that's why I'm saying, like, just hit F5 over and over. Just make sure you're saving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting question. Now that you have Baldur's Gate 3, are you curious in exploring more games like Baldur's Gate 3?
No.
Yeah, because it's enough.
Absolutely not. No way. I don't want to be anywhere near any of those other games because I don't think they're going to be anywhere near what Baldur's Gate 3 is.
You think you've experienced the pinnacle and there's no going back kind of thing?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't think I know. I don't think that, because like I've played Dragon Age Origins and I've played like, those like other RPGs and they're great. They're not as good as this game.
Okay.
So I don't know that anyone has made a better CRPG than this game. This might be the greatest CRPG of all time. And I don't know that people are going to disagree with me on that. Because like, yeah, again, if you go 5 years in the past, processing power wasn't as good. We didn't have the same amount of resources to throw at a game that we do now. So I think Baldur's Gate is utilizing all of it. I think they have maxed it out fully.
Yeah.
So
the audience is bigger now too.
Yeah.
I mean, Divinity Original Sin 2 probably helped Larry and get Baldur's Gate 3 greenlit. And there's no way in hell that game would have sold. I don't even know what it sold, but there's no way it would have sold however much it did if it came out in like 2010.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a reason those games went away. Thankfully, they're coming back because God bless the PC platform. Somehow, games sell enough on it to greenlight all sorts of concepts that just would not really fly on console typically.
It's true.
Or that big publishers would never really greenlight.
Yeah.
So we're in a renaissance, Bruce. I mean, I'm willing to say 2023 is already the best year in gaming, period.
Really? Of all time?
Yeah, easy.
Wow.
Easy. I mean, Tears of the Kingdom is one of the best games ever made. So that's in this year, plus a ton of other games that are also really good.
Yeah.
Every month has had like a big release, and we're not done yet. And really, it's just the variety. Other great years have had one or two great games in respective genres. This one's had a great game in pretty much every genre.
That's true. You're right.
We're gonna get Forza by the time the year's out.
We got action RPG and Diablo 4.
Yeah, 100 fighting games, which is weird, and they've all been good.
That's true. Yeah.
It's.
I mean, we got Final Fantasy 16, which was all right. Well, I don't know what kind of RPG you call it.
ARPG.
Is it an ARPG?
I guess, man. It's an entertainment experience.
Obviously Tears of the Kingdom. I mean, like, we got Jedi Survivor, which is also really good.
Crime Boss Rock Case City.
We're gonna get Armored Core.
Armored Core 6, yeah.
Crime Boss Rock Case City. I just glossed right over that.
You talked about like NPCs dying and not seeing the rest of their stories. You gave me Crime Boss flashbacks. But yeah, it's been a lot of good stuff, a lot of weird stuff,
Lawrence,
a lot of new concepts.
Wow, you're the first person I have ever heard say that 2023 might be the best year in gaming yet. And I don't disagree. I'm not at all disagreeing. There are a couple of we were going through Chat and I were going through other years that there was like one specific year. I forget it was
98's real good. 08 was really good.
Yeah, there was like a 2008 or 2009. It's like one of those years that just like
Mass Effect,
bangers.
Assassin's
Just
Creed.
like every game was a banger.
It was all the new franchises basically.
Yeah, and 2023 is it. It is currently happening. And it's, hey guys, we're really spoiled this year. Like last year, I remember everybody's complaining about this, how bad games were or whatever. We had a couple pretty good ones.
It was a little light.
But it was a little light, yeah. So this year, cherish it. Sit down, really enjoy it. Love it. And this is your backlog, right, for 2024? Because 2024 is not going to look like this year. Not at all. Not even anywhere close. Because
probably not.
We might get a Metroid.
New Switch, yeah.
We might get a
Switch
Metroid.
Pro with Metroid Prime 4.
Maybe.
Bank on it.
But I don't. What is 2024 going to look like?
I mean, who knows? The pace of releases is so ridiculous. We're not even going to know about that until December. Or I guess Jeff Keighley's Game Awards is usually when we hear about everything launching up until March.
Yeah, that's true.
And then it's a new fiscal year, so all bets are off.
Yeah, so this year's just amazing. It's just been wow. I can't believe the games were, and like I feel bad for other indie games that are releasing that are like trying to find a spot because nobody wants to find a spot around Starfield.
Yeah, didn't Baldur's Gate move up because it was trying to get away from?
And but by the way, the smartest move, because if they had released around Starfield, then it would have split this audience.
Oh, dude, how tragic would that have been?
Yeah.
I think, luckily Baldur's Gate has some time to exist under its own merits, because Starfield is basically on the other end of the spectrum as far as RPGs are concerned.
That's right.
And it would be a real shame if somebody got distracted by Starfield's simple delights and didn't investigate what Baldur's Gate was trying to do.
That would have been me.
Yeah.
So if Starfield and Baldur's Gate released, I would have been like, well, I'm playing Starfield. And I would have played Starfield for weeks. Obviously, if it launches well. And then Baldur's Gate, I probably never would have gone to. Like years later, I would have been like, oh, I'm gonna give it a shot, but like not on release. So,
damn, yeah. Divinity Original Sin 2 came and went, and I kind of like missed that moment. And then I've tried to get back into it, but it's intimidating, man.
It is. It's very scary.
I rolled a character and landed, and like the second dialogue option had like 12 decisions.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was real high, and I was like, I can't read all this.
That's pretty scary.
I mean, I might be embellishing a little bit, but that's it lets you know pretty fast that it's an intense game that's going to make you read. kind of like what was it? Knights of the Old Republic 2 was the last game I remember like that. It's like you're gonna read.
Disco Elysium was the one that I was like, I was like, this is clearly a masterpiece, and I am no way reading these novels.
It's voiced now.
Like, oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh,
they put out a director's cut that has full voice acting.
Like I played like 5 hours of it, and I was like, I can't. I'm sorry. Like even the gameplay itself wasn't compelling enough for me to stick around with it. Whereas in Baldur's Gate, I think it is a little bit more.
Makes sense.
It feels a little more actiony, even though it's turn-based.
Sure.
And Disco Elysium was you're just walking from one person to the next.
Walking and talking.
Yeah.
Occasionally you like fight your ego and maybe lose and die on your feet. That happens, but yeah. I think you can in Disco you can die in the first room by just kind of having ego death.
Oh really?
Yeah, I think you can just like look in the mirror so long you just die. I think you can also kill yourself with a ceiling fan.
Again, it's like I know it's a masterpiece, and everyone talks about how much they love it, and I just haven't played all the way through it.
Me neither. So
yeah. Man, I can't wait till you play Baldur's Gate. I'm really curious to see what you think.
I'm starting it after this, baby.
Yeah, no, I know you're close, and you were gone the weekend of release, so I'm excited to see. But.
Speaking of gone, I went to a few, I guess, a gaming event. I didn't get to go to EVO, but I did get to go to Final Fantasy Fan Fest, and that was kind of a shit show. I don't know. This is dangerously close to not being about gaming, but I'm just, man, the world is lines now for everything.
Yeah.
The world is crowded.
It is.
I've thought about this.
Did you forget about it though because of the pandemic?
Maybe. It feels more crowded than it used to be.
Oh, I mean, it is. I think we've got the highest population we've ever had.
Yeah, ever. Yeah. I feel it. I can tell.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is also age, but I can remember a time I had to wait in line for some things, but now you got to wait in line for everything.
Okay.
Everything.
Right.
All they had were like, they just had some carnival games out. Like you just have to throw a beanbag in a bucket or something. Like an hour and a half line to throw a beanbag.
Well, was there a prize? Was there a prize?
Sorta.
What was the prize?
If you did enough of the quests, you could, guess what, wait in another line to show somebody the quest you had done on your phone, and they would give you stickers and a poster.
So I think I understand. You paid to go to the fan fest, right? Because
yes.
You paid to go to the fan fest, and then as soon as you showed up, there's fucking lines.
Oh yeah.
Like I would have been pissed. Yeah. That makes sense. That sounds, honestly, that's bad organization. That's not.
Is there any getting around it though?
Yes, there is. You go to a larger venue, but
it's sold out immediately.
Well, how bad? What
they had to do like a raffle to even have the chance to buy tickets to go.
That's
and I was a lucky attendee.
That's creating fake demand.
You think?
Absolutely. I know it is, because they could have like gone to a larger area and paid more people to be more vendors, but they didn't do that. So that's why it sucked.
I mean, it was in a pretty large space.
Yeah.
Las Vegas Convention Center.
It's a big convention center, but they have all the halls? Like, because I know they're probably not.
No.
There's probably one of them like North Hall or something.
Yeah, like one of the big ones.
Yeah, because I mean, like I would go to CES every year for years. CES is the largest convention consistently. At least it used to be, and they took every hall. And it was massive at the Las Vegas Convention Center. But I imagine FanFest did not have that size.
Yeah, you might be right there.
I don't know. Well, but I still think that your complaints are valid. By the way, I just think that they kind of botched the convention itself.
This drives me to an impasse, though. How do you summon up the courage to go outside and do things in the world when you know it's just going to be lines? I guess you don't know, but
so I'll tell you what I do. I go to places I know won't have lines.
Okay.
We live in Los Angeles. We live in like one of the biggest cities in the world, and there are specific places, 4 or 5 of them, that I know I'll never have to wait in a line, because I know when to go, and I know what place it is, and I know that there'll probably be parking. These are things you have to think about in Los Angeles, and that's just part of living in a city. You could move to another city if you wanted to, like a Phoenix, or like a smaller city like Seattle or something.
Well, that's the contradiction. It's like you can go. Well, I guess Seattle, Phoenix. You can go to places that are less packed, but then there's not as much to do.
That's always the problem.
Not as many lines to wait in.
That's always the problem, and that's why I live in Los Angeles, because we can do anything here.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't like that. I'm sure people listening right now are living in the middle of Montana, and they love it.
Dude, there was this one time, speaking of being away from people, where we were driving. This is a different trip. But it doesn't have to do with gaming, so I'm not going to bring up what it was about. That'll be for the patrons cast.
Oh, okay.
A little bit. Sign up for the Patreon if you want to hear those secret stories. Anyway, I was driving down. Steph had to stop and take a work meeting. Don't tell her boss, because she had to pretend like she was working.
Word.
But that meant, like, engine off. I'd get out of the car. But I was like, I had to use the restroom. This is perfect. And she, like, pulled into a gas station. So I walked in, no restroom. That's okay. There's another gas station on the corner. Walked over, no restroom. There's a third gas station on the opposite corner. I'll just go, oh, no restroom.
What?
It's in that, like, methy area of town.
Oh, okay, all right.
So I start walking around getting increasingly desperate. I'm just trying to find a dark corner with some shade now, with some vegetation that's thirsty. And Bruce, I couldn't find a single corner in like 5 blocks that didn't have a person in it.
Really?
Just people hanging out. Walking around, just slouched against the wall.
Where were you?
It was south of here. It was just some random highway off-ramp.
Huh. Wow.
I had to walk like, I want to say like 4 or 5 blocks until I found a coffee shop that, by the grace of God, had a bathroom I could use. Fantastic cold brew, by the way.
Let me ask you this. Did the gas stations you go to have bathrooms that were out of order?
No. There was
no bathroom.
There was no door at all. There was one where I could see a bathroom through an employees only door because the employees only door was open at the time.
Okay, so I was going to say, did you ask people? Were you like, hey, where's your bathroom? And they're like, no, we don't have one.
There were lines, Bruce. There were lines for every cashier, and they were all doing shit.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to piss, but I don't want to scream over this person who's just trying to buy
So you were
5 tall boys or whatever.
But you were close. It sounds like you were still close, relatively close to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I was in the sprawl still.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
The Los Angeles. If you guys don't know Los Angeles, it goes 60 miles in all directions but the ocean. So north, east, and south, it's 60 miles of roads and houses. There is no break, none. It's wild when you fly into Los Angeles. It's just like this constant stream of like one level houses all the way in, and it is intimidating. It sucks. There's a lot of stuff you got to worry about living in a giant city like this.
Just remember all the times back in Texas. I don't ever want to move back, but the one virtue of it was that on a given road, I could just pull off to the side, find a tree, and piss my cares away.
That's right. My wife talks about this all the time. Autumn is from Phoenix, and she's like, 7 years ago when I was driving around Phoenix, I could always park anywhere. There's like, I would pull up to a Walmart, and the Walmart would have thousands of parking spaces, and 3 people were parked there, and I could just park anywhere I wanted. And she's like, Los Angeles is so different. I'm like, that it is. It is exactly the opposite of that. It is not at all Phoenix, or any other, really big sprawled out city with 100,000 people in it.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's weird. It is. It's weird.
Yeah. Perks of more people. More people buy Baldur's Gate 3 and make it financially viable.
True.
Downsides, nowhere to piss.
You got to wait in line. Yeah.
Woof. Don't have to wait in line to play Baldur's Gate 3, though. I guess you got to download it. It's a big game.
It's huge. It's like 125 gigs.
Man, that's a lot of data.
Big
Although Starfield's going to be like 120 gigs.
It's going to be the same size, yeah.
Why?
Because the choices, Lawrence.
I guess
it's because of the graphics. It's because of the graphics.
Planet texture data.
I'm sure it's because of the graphics. There's no way it's going to be because of the choices. No way.
I'm excited to see. But they're probably going for it. They
They're
talked
totally
about,
going for it. Yeah.
Todd said some stuff about relationships. People might get mad at you for a while and then not be mad at you.
I can't wait. I'm very excited. I hope that it's like the other games where you could kill almost any NPC. That's really all I want from Starfield is like you could just kill anybody and then whatever, live with the consequences. I think that would be great.
I hope so. I
don't want it to be like a fake RPG. I want it to be at least right down the middle. It's not going to be like Baldur's Gate. I know that, and that's okay. I don't want it to be like Baldur's Gate. I want it to be like a Skyrim or a Fallout. So hopefully it's that. That's it. That's all.
I would want it to be like Baldur's Gate if Larian didn't make Baldur's Gate.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That was the source of my resentment for a long time, is that a lot of those games were fading away, and the people that used to make those kind of games were stopping because people weren't buying them. So
yeah.
And I bitterly hold them responsible. Bethesda, how dare you make games that more people want to play and have fun with? Tragic.
They'd be like, well, because we made $1 billion.
Sellouts!
I mean, yeah, that's, of course, we have employees to pay.
How come you can look down your nose at a filmmaker or a musician for selling out, for changing their output to be more popular? Why don't people do that with studios?
They do.
When?
They do. For sure they do.
They love it. The more sellout that a studio gets, everyone's like, yes, good, perfect.
I kind of agree with you. You see it less in video games for sure. But that's because the video game industry is younger. So
people don't like monetization. That's the thing that people call selling out. What selling out actually is like what BioWare did to Mass Effect.
That's right.
Just make it stupider, faster, less complicated, more obvious.
It's so funny.
Or even Bethesda for the Fallout series.
Playing through those Mass Effects was hilarious. I just recently did that for the first time. I'd never played it. Played through Mass Effect 1 and then played through Mass Effect 2 and I was like, oh, Mass Effect 2 feels like kind of the perfect balance. I was like, well, they kind of cater to me a little bit as a casual gamer, but then they're still got the RPG stuff. You want to tinker with numbers and stuff. And then Mass Effect 3 was the dumbest shit I ever seen. Like, I couldn't believe how stupid it was.
I keep telling people that Mass Effect 3 is one of the dumbest games ever made.
It is.
And everyone's like, no, it's great. I remember it being great. I'm like, well, you were 12. Play it again.
Yeah, no.
I'm excited to hear you say that, Bruce, because
it was so stupid.
Right? It's like C-tier Hollywood schlock. All the writing and the music cues.
I mean, I thought that about... It's funny because I thought that about Mass Effect and Mass Effect 1 is that the writing was terrible.
But it knew it was dumb. Like
it did, yeah.
One had a self-aware like CW charm about it. That was like, all right.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I didn't like it. It's more of like I just know it's stupid. So that was it. And so when people come in and like want to talk about Mass Effect lore or whatever, I'm always like, lore? It's fucking dumb. Like, why were we talking about? Like, didn't you notice what Garrus did? I was like, no, I don't care what Garrus did. Like they can barely talk to each other because the characters' eyes don't meet and they're googly eyes and their boobs are huge. Like, come on, it's all stupid.
Yeah, man, those tits got huge, didn't they?
Was that Mass Effect 2 or 3?
Well, both. But they gave the robot the juiciest jugs ever in 3. That to me, that's prime, pun partially intended. Again, and I don't understand why it's exempt from being mocked for this. They gave the hologram that the Dust Bones man was in love with the most massive oiled up tits.
The hottest.
Yeah. And everyone's like, Art, BioWare, you've done it. It was finally.
It's talking about, I just played, so for the first time played Metal Gear Solid. I never played any Metal Gear, and I played Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. I started with it, and I can't tell you the protesting that I got from the internet about why did you start with 5? Oh, you should have started with 3.
Well, they want
started
you to
with 1. You should have started with 4.
They want to watch you play them. I kind of want you to play the old ones.
I mean, well, trust me. If I had played Metal Gear Solid 1 on whatever, PlayStation 2 or 1, whatever, 1, PlayStation 1, if I had played that on a computer or on a PlayStation 1, I would have thrown my controller into the trash in disgust. And I'm like, this looks like garbage and it plays like garbage. I'm sorry. It probably doesn't hold up well. But thankfully, I played Phantom Pain and fell in love with all of it. Like, because it's an amazing open world game, number one. Number two, all the characters are so stupid. Like, they're the dumbest shit in the world, and that's why I love it, right? Yeah. It's dumb. So now I'm like, oh, I want to experience the other Metal Gears, because I'm like, what else is Big Boss or Venom Snake, whatever the fuck his name is? What else? How does this happen? Because I think it's a prequel, right? Isn't Phantom Pain a prequel to the universe of Metal Gear?
Yes. It's in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
It's after Metal Gear 1 and 2.
And like,
but before Solid 1.
Thank you very much for knowing that. I don't care at all.
I got it wrong. My bad. Oh, somebody's gonna...
There's gonna be comments. Yeah, there'll be comments. Don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay.
Shit.
But I mean, like,
this is how you tee it up. This is like being a wrestling heel is getting Metal Gear facts wrong. So the audience can correct you.
But that's what. And again, this is what I mean. Is that like all these people were like, you're doing it wrong, and I was like, you're gatekeeping. Like, shut up. Stop it. Stop. You are turning me away from the game that you love. Like, you're turning me away from the lore, and you're like, I know you want to offload all this bullshit that you can't talk about with anybody else because it's dumb. Like, I know you want to talk about it, but I don't care. All right? So let me care about it the way I want to care about it first, and then eventually I will play Metal Gear Solid 3 or whatever, because the remake's coming out soon. Mm-hmm. And I can't wait now. I'm so excited.
And the collection, if you want to try to play the old ones.
I will definitely try the collection now. Never would have done that before if I hadn't played Phantom Pain. And Phantom Pain, the reason I brought up that is because of Mass Effect. Like, where everyone talks about the lore of Mass Effect, I was like, it's so fucking stupid. Why are we doing this? Same with Metal Gear. Everyone wants to talk about the lore of Metal Gear. I'm like, this is dumb. It's dumb. It's so stupid. Why are we like? Don't talk about it like it's like revered. That'd be like if I sat down and tried to talk to you about The Flash on CW. Like that shit is so stupid. Like you watch an episode, it goes through your head. You know, like you don't even think about it anymore. So I don't know. I love it. Either way, Phantom Pain is like one of the greatest video games I've ever played. Open world games ever. I love it. I'm so excited. I can't wait to play more of it.
Yeah,
And
I'm
also,
glad you picked it up.
I can't wait to see more Quiet.
Oh yeah.
The male gaze of the camera on Quiet is the most insane thing I've ever seen. I can't believe they got away with that shit in 2015
And it's super out of context too. There's no reason for the camera to do that
at all.
because it's not in any. Well, you can get some beefcake shots of Snake if you really want to.
But
And
really, it's hard though. You're right. Like I would like to see
You can make him shirtless and crawl around.
I would like to see him, but I'd like to see in a cinematic him shirtless, showered up, right, all fucking glistening, ripped.
You got to wait for Death Stranding for that.
I don't want that with Norman Reedus.
He's thick as fuck in that game though.
He is.
He's a big boy.
It's true. Whew. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I want to see Venom Snake, fucking shredded. You know, choking people out and stuff.
There are fun homosexual overtones in the Metal Gear series for sure, and they're there on purpose. A lot of JoJo energy, like hyper masculinity, to the point that it becomes a parody of itself.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you'll get through Metal Gear Solid 4. There's some good shirtless action in that one, but they're old, but ripped.
That's okay.
Not the most confusing, jerk off I've ever had. Yeah, you want to talk about a series that never sold out, Bruce?
Okay.
Metal Gear. Well, sorta. The protagonist of 2 changed specifically to make him more marketable in Japan.
Oh, really?
That's also why they added Quiet. Shocker. I think Kojima was like, yeah, in Japan, you need cosplayers to market your game.
Oh.
So there's got to be like a hot chick that they can dress up as when they're standing in front of the software stores handing out flyers and stuff. So he was like, yeah, it's just part of the thing. Also, you have to sell statues. It's just part of the marketing of the thing.
Huh.
So we have to have a character like that. I think the Quiet statues even had like squishy tits. I remember that.
Really? Is that true?
I remember there being headlines back when it came
fondling
out.
statues?
Of course they're fondling it, but now it's squishy and not. Hold on, I gotta look this up.
That's crazy. I had no idea. That's kind of disgusting. I'm glad that this is now in my search history, by the way. Totally fine with that.
Soft, movable boobs.
Ugh. See, like seeing a man's thumb.
Yeah, he does not a very well manicured thumb there. But yeah, she was made out of some kind of squishy material, so you could squish her. How do you feel about that, Bruce?
By the way, I'm in love with Quiet. I'm absolutely in love with the character. Obviously, she's super hot, but it's disgusting that we need to have statues where people can fondle them. That's gross.
I can't believe I'm going to say this, but her titties are too fat. In this particular model...
You're a crazy man. You're a crazy person. I'm disappointed in you, Lawrence.
They're folding, like... No, it's fine. She's too skinny for that, for one. But second of all, she's almost got that, like, full crease across the whole sternum. You know?
Yeah. So what? So what, Lawrence?
Just imagine it without the binding, Bruce. Those things would be like over here. Actually, shit, that's pretty hot.
I'm imagining it. It sounds great.
I was thinking about this because of the event that I attended that doesn't have anything to do with gaming, that I'm not going to talk about. But there was a burlesque show, and I was reminded of my assertion that I think is still true, is that the hottest titty you can see is the one from the back.
Oh, yeah.
You're behind a woman.
Yeah, of course.
And still somehow you can see the titty.
That's super sexy. That's like a side boob.
Yeah. Under armpit tit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's super sexy.
Because there's been a lot of advances to boob glancing angle technology. We've got sides, we got unders, we got overs.
Yeah.
Back titty.
I would agree. I don't disagree with you.
That's the future. I didn't, let me know if Quiet gets any of that action. I don't know if they I know that she showers at some point.
Oh, does she?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to spoil it.
Spoiler.
Sorry, dog.
Lawrence, we made it to an hour.
It's because she absorbs the sun through her skin, right?
Whatever. I don't even know if they talked about it yet.
There's
I played like 20 hours of the game.
There's a sniper in 3 that also does that, but not quite the same. You'll get there.
All right. Okay.
But yes, that wraps up this month's Inside Gamescast. Did an awful lot of talking about Baldur's Gate 3, considering only half of us have played it. But hopefully you listened to this while you were enjoying Baldur's Gate 3.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
I'm positive they did. Yeah.
And we'll be back next month. Like I alluded to, try to check out our Patreon if you have a moment. Bruce and I love doing gaming news and talking about gaming everything.
We are, just so you know, we always do a patron cast right after this podcast that is only for the patrons. So if you support the Patreon, you get the patron cast. And that's where we talk about actual personal real life stuff, not about video games. So you may learn something about one or both of us on that podcast.
I'm just back titty.
Well, I mean, they learn that about you on the normal Gamescast, but maybe later on the patron cast, you'll learn about Lawrence's event. Oh, we're going to talk about the event that Lawrence went to. I already know what it is and I'm excited.
It's mysterious.
I can't wait.